Hello everyone, welcome to the Kuma community call. Please add your name to the attendee list and feel free to submit any agenda item you'd like to discuss today. So we will start with the releases. Kuma 1.7.0 release is still in progress. We are waiting for Envoy security patch that's supposed to be released tomorrow. And as soon as we got all binaries compiled for Envoy, I think we are ready to go and cut the release. And the same for, I think before we will have 1.6.1, and after that 1.7.0, it should be at the beginning of the next week, if I'm correct. So yes, Charlie, do you have anything to add for releases?
No, there's Kuma 152 as well, right?
Oh yeah, I didn't. 152, right. So any question about the releases? If not, then next topic, I think Charlie can cover these ADRs.
Yes, so in the past, what we've been doing for proposals for like big features or big changes to Kuma has been docs, like markdown files inside Kuma that didn't really have any kind of format. What we've been, and the process wasn't very well defined. So what we've been working on now is to have an ADR process to do this. So it's all defined. Well, do you want to show the old proposals first? Yeah, maybe. So these are the old proposals. So like there's no real easy way to identify them. There's no standardized format. And so there's sometimes a little bit hard to like reread it after the fact and understand really what happened. Now that we have MADR, so we have this here. The very first MADR is to actually use MADR. So if you pick this one, yeah. It actually describes what we do. The cool thing is actually defining what needs an MADR so that people can quickly know whether or not they should go through a design. And so to open it, you just, create a like follow this template. And then you do need to get 3 approvals on the PR to get the MADR actually merged in. And yeah, that's about it. Like it's meant to cover like alternatives that's been used, like the positive and negative outcomes of the selection of the solution being chosen, and all that. So that's about it, I think.
Oh, we have 2.
Yeah, there's already one that's been approved.
Yeah, cool.
Any questions on this? Nope.
Yeah, if there are no questions, then I think we can discuss this now, like the topic that come up recently, or maybe we can first check if people have like questions in general. And so, are there any questions? Yeah, in this case,
yeah,
we can discuss whatever we want. So yeah, I think Lucas started this topic. So can you please introduce us to the?
Yes. So once someone reported that zone egress and egress does not expose metrics, and it was caused that by not configured listeners for them. And because the zone egress egress are zone specific, not mesh specific, it's hard to define the Prometheus backend for them because we define Prometheus backend for the mesh. So there's like problem how to detect to which Prometheus should take the metrics. It might be some there looks like the metrics shouldn't be mesh specific, more like zone specific or something like this, because you mostly want one Prometheus for whole cluster, and that's why I thought maybe the mesh specific policies, not all, they don't have to be like this. Same it comes to the external services, they might be also not mesh specific, and maybe some default policies that you want to apply for all the meshes.
Yeah. I guess the core thing is like, is there value to have like policies that will apply to every single mesh around, right? And because they're more like specific to a deployment rather than like to a mesh. And if you take a context where a mesh is a business unit or a team,
in my opinion, it doesn't make sense to take the policies that we're using for setting some stuff on inbound or outbound and have these type of policies to be available for all meshes. I think that's kind of breaks isolation that we want to achieve with meshes. But at the same time, I get the use case with Prometheus. So maybe we should define some things globally. Maybe, I mean, draw the line, what is policy and what is some backend you define for all meshes, for example.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like some specific things that are not the mesh specific, like the Prometheus, for example, the observability, the whole observability shouldn't be for just one mesh.
Yeah, and at the same time, it should be, is it scenario when we want this to be for mesh, like per mesh? Or it's always for all meshes?
We could probably support this, but I'm not sure if it's like super use case. Probably if we change, that is a breaking change, so we would have to support this.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when we finally finish the proposal for new policy matching, we will take this into account.
I mean, I guess one thing is the bit of observability we're talking about, it's not really down to configuring data planes, it's like configuring external stuff, right? So in that case, it's the backends for logging, tracing, and metrics. And the other example we have is external services, right? So maybe like it doesn't fall. Sorry, finishing my idea is like maybe it doesn't fall in the policy matching thing. It's just a thing that is defined.
Yeah, it's something that like cluster operator gives you. For example, you have one logging backend in your cluster, and you just create and define this, and you can use it from every mesh. So maybe such stuff for logging tracing that you mentioned, that exactly should be defined on global cluster level, not mesh level. Yeah, I can try to write down what we discussed. So backends for yeah, okay. Anything else to add for this?
I guess it might be worth like pointing out external services as well.
But then in this case, like if you create external service, it will be added as a now bound to all meshes.
I guess so. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm not sure if this
Like
is a good.
devil's in the detail.
I don't know. I would do global external service then, like a separate entity.
Oh, right. Yeah. I'm not saying it should be the same thing, right? I was just saying
okay.
like there's a
Mhm.
use case for creating an external service and say any mesh in my Kuma can access this external service, and I don't have to define it n times.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense to have it as a separate process and easier from the implementation point of view if scope is different.
Okay, so for metrics for zone egress and ingress, what do we really need to configure?
Well, metrics for zone ingress is complicated in the context where you have different backends for different meshes, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just thinking if we can kind of explicitly configure this on zone ingress or zone egress object without introducing like more stuff, right?
Like in the object itself, in zone ingress resource.
Yes, yeah, just like we do with a data plane, right? That you can override the setting of metrics in a data plane object. Like we could follow the same path with zone ingress and egress.
But in this case, you have to define the backend, right? Not just
Right.
reference backend.
Right, you need to define the backend. So that's why I'm thinking what is the minimal configuration that you need to have for this, right? If this is like 3 things, right? Sure, maybe it's okay to just define this in a deployment or whatever.
I mean, the other way is for each backend to be able to scrape zone ingress and zone egress with like specific filters that will got things that are outside the mesh, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also means that if you have like n meshes, you'll scrape your zone ingress n times when you could just do it once.
Yes. Yeah. Mm. Okay, so also the alternative would be to have a global traffic metric.
Well, global backend, right? And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, but global backend would be just a definition of backend, right? So then how do you use this backend?
Well, at the moment, for traffic metric, like the definition of the backend is all there is, right?
Mhm.
It's like you define a list of backend and then you have an enabled backend, and there's no traffic metric policy.
Yes, for now. Yes. But assuming that we have a backend, so like, would this be a switch and the zone egress and zone egress? Or would we have like a separate policy that, like Ilya said, or I don't remember who, that would be like zone scoped essentially. Yeah, but going back to the original question, to be honest, I don't really like an idea of having one object that can be either global scoped or mesh scoped, right? Like I hope this will be a separate object. I think we had this discussion about secrets also.
Yeah, we have
That
two
were,
types.
yeah, and we have two types of secrets, right? Mesh scoped secrets and global scoped secrets. And I think that was a good decision. I know that there are like more objects now and so on, but at least the scope is kind of clear from this.
Yeah, so like our sort of conclusion is that if you need some logic on global level, just create new resource for this logic, which will work for you on global level.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Do we have anything else to discuss?
No, I mean, Greg joined us since we passed the Q&A. So, like, do you have anything you want to chat about, Greg?
No, not today. I haven't joined in a while. This time got conflicted a lot, but I was able to jump on today. So,
okay, cool. How, like, as we've got still have 10 minutes, right? Like, JP and Greg, like, if you want to share a little bit about your experience with Kuma, like that'd be great. Or like, if you're just curious.
Sure. I'm JP. I work for a broadcasting company. We're trying to implement essentially a hybrid, cloud using Kong as the API gateway and Kuma as a service mesh. So we have a diverse amount of systems ranging from GMS, HTTP, and some very, like I said, custom protocols. That's why we want to work at the TCP level. So I'm in a Kuma right now as a way to leverage some of the, being at that layer to get, connectivity with these different applications. That's it.
Okay, nice. And so what's working out with Kuma, and what are the hedgy bit at the moment?
Well, I had a bit of a challenge integrating Kuma and Kong, but I got around it. And of course, we're using CyberArk, Conjure for secrets, and that's also been a bit of a problem because the way Kong implement the open API with secure API, sorry, with Conjure, passing secret and so on. But that's more Kong than Kuma. So I guess I'm just getting my feet wet with Kuma right now. And I joined the community just to see what's going on, and maybe contribute at one point. I'm assuming it's all Go Lang you're using for language?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. And Greg, anything new on your side?
No, this summer I'm going to be working on, and I talked to, I think, Jacob in the past before this, but I'm going to be working with one of the developer advocates at HashiCorp and developing a Vault plugin that will manage the token brokering in Kuma. There's a lot of manual steps to that and a lot of pieces that I think would be nice to automate. And I think that those two products would kind of complement each other pretty nicely. So yeah, that's something that I'm going to be working on this summer. I've been digging into Kuma a lot lately because I work in public sector in the US, and they tend to use Kong for their API gateways. I've done some service meshes with console and some other stuff, and there are some sometimes there can be some challenges to get those to work just quite right because they work slightly different in certain areas. So digging into Kuma as well. So
Cool, thanks.
Okay. If there are no more question or discussion,
I have one thing.
think
If we have
Sure.
a couple of minutes, maybe we can discuss the slides.
we have
because-
6.
Okay, but I.
Do you want to share?
Yeah, I want to share screen. Okay. So I created a PR that should help us to do a better job with logging in Kuma. And I've written a bunch of conventions that I think we should follow. Of course, you are like, feel free to argue against them. I'm okay, like just pick one way. But I was thinking about this point. So if you are logging some action, right? Should I log before action, do an action, and log again that action is done? Or should I just log before that, or only after that? Do you see what I mean? Like, if I log before and after, it's twice as many logs, but at the same time, it's kind of nice to see that something has completed, right? So right now I've written this that because of not producing too many logs, we probably should log only once, right? And probably it's better to log before an action. So if there is an error, it's kind of clear what was the cause of an error. So what do you think about this?
Can't we
Should
just,
Mhm.
can't we just, like, why isn't the error enough? Can't we just wrap the error with more information about what went wrong?
Sure, that is an option. But sometimes, so you are suggesting that we should only log when we
Yeah,
complete something, and the
Yeah.
error itself should contain information about what is the process that we are running. Yeah, maybe that makes sense. Although then we need to be careful about wrapping and like adding this information, but that's kind of like, it has to be done anyways.
I think that for like trace or debug level, we could actually log before and after, so we know how long the action takes, so you don't have to like hook up any like instrumentation stuff, so you know, like performance wise, you know exactly how long the action took, but only for like higher levels or lower levels of logging.
Yeah, that's why there is a V1 here. So that's a debug level, right? So that's info, that's debug. But yeah, maybe this should be the other way around, right? So that's an info, that's a debug. So you have this trace of how long did it take with both levels?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think definitely the double logging should only happen when once you're in debug, but it can be useful in debug. It's like at least for tracing and getting some telemetry info, like
Mm-hmm.
accidental telemetry.
Yeah.
Are
Okay.
there any like frameworks, not frameworks, but guidelines for big code bases? I don't know, like Kubernetes, for example. Do they have standards how to log?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was writing this by just, I went through the code base more or less to just see how we use logging, and I was trying to, write examples of what we are doing right and what we could improve, right? But yeah, maybe there are standards with like bigger code bases. Let me check that.
Also, another question is, can we enforce that via some sort of a linter so we don't have to remember?
Yeah, so ideally, yes. In practice, let's see. I hope so, at least some of them. Okay,
Maybe we
that
can-
was. Mhm.
Sorry,
ahead.
just one thing. Maybe we can actually like write custom rules for the Go linter. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, of course. I mean, linting of this should be possible, but I don't know if there is like a built-in solution that we can take, or will we like spend a month implementing this, right? So yeah. Let's see. Okay, that was the point that I was the most concerned about. So thanks for the input. And if you have like more suggestions, questions, or whatever, just comment the PM. I would love to hear more.
Cool, thank you. And I think we are top of the hour. So thank you, everyone, and have a good day. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks.
See ya.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.